Wizards general manager Tommy Shepard said today that the franchise has no intentions of trading John Wall. A source confirmed to ESPN that the Wizards had discussed a potential trade for Wall for Russell Westbrook with the Rockets, but here's more of what Shepard had to say today.
There's no plans to trade John. Obviously, that's unfortunate this time of year. I think the bait and tackle shop's wide open for business. There's a lot of people that get excited on the internet or whatnot, but there's no issues with John and I. There's no issues with John and the Wizards. There's no issue with anybody other than we just want to go out and get between the lines where life makes a little bit more sense right now than it does. So we're getting ready for whatever is ahead of us.
Now, Wall still has 3 years remaining on that lucrative 4-year contract extension he signed back in 2017. But the number 1 overall pick in the 2010 NBA draft missed most of the last 2 seasons after rupturing his Achilles back in 2019. We are now joined by NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski. Woj, what should this mean moving forward for John Wall and Bradley Beal, who are both set to be reunited on the court for the first time in 2 years?
Yes, and I think that's more the question for the Washington Wizards. Not so much what John Wall wants, but what does Bradley Beal want? Because in Wall's absence, Beal has become the unquestioned franchise player for them, and they're building this organization around him, and they want to keep him long term. And you know, I think both Bradley Beal and Tommy Shepard have really liked what they've seen with John Wall in his rehab. They've seen him; they feel like he's improved his three-point shot. Tommy Shepard says he's seen the explosion back with John Wall. He's been out of the league for a very long time. I think they want to see what they look like together back on the court and go from there.
Okay, well, how about another duo now to the West? How are the Rockets planning on moving forward with James Harden and Russell Westbrook at this point?
Well, they have not engaged on James Harden in trade talk, but Russell Westbrook they have. That's not an easy trade to make, and I think for the Rockets, getting back into training camp and starting the season is probably a more likely scenario than Westbrook even moving. They're going to bring DeMarcus Cousins in to training camp. Our Tim McMahon reported, see if they can resurrect his career. He has faced, several significant injuries in the last couple of years, and he'll get another opportunity to make that Rockets roster.
All right, well, it was a crazy weekend in free agency, but now I want to know what potential significant moves could still be looming this week with NBA training camps opening in just over a week.
Well, Tuesday is an interesting day to watch. Bogdan Bogdanović's offer sheet with the Atlanta Hawks. The Kings have to make a decision. Are they going to match the offer sheet for the restricted free agent and keep him? Or that 4-year, $72 million deal, do they let him go to Atlanta? And so they've got about another 24 hours before they have to tell the league and tell Atlanta what they're going to do. So they're making that decision. And I think you're going to see some more extensions. There's a lot of extension-eligible players. Brandon Ingram in New Orleans, OG Anunoby in Toronto, Bam Adebayo in Miami. You'll start to see those. And, of course, Giannis Antetokounmpo has until December 21 to decide on that 5-year Supermax contract.
Very interesting. I can't believe we're talking training camp already. It feels like the season just ended.
Storm and Scott with you on a Monday. Donovan Mitchell and the Jazz agreeing to a 5-year max extension worth up to $195, coming off a postseason where he averaged over 36 points per game. And ditto for Jason Tatum, cashing in 5-year max extension with Boston, also worth up to $195 million for the first-time All-Star in 2020. Lakers agreed to a deal with Marc Gasol, the defending champs, reworking that front court. They also traded JaVale McGee to the Cavs to clear up space for his signing. And the man, he's not even the man, the myth. He's the man, the legend. Adrian Wojnarowski just working like crazy. The draft, free agency, insane. All right, so obviously the Lakers aren't resting on their laurels, right? So they trade for Dennis Schroeder, they add Gasol, they add Montrezl Harrell. What are you hearing about everything they're doing this offseason?
Well, it's pretty rare when a defending champion actually upgrades their bench and upgrades on players who helped them win a title. Rajon Rondo went to Atlanta. Dwight Howard goes to Philly. So they bring in Dennis Schroeder in a trade, a Sixth Man of the Year candidate. Marc Gasol, future Hall of Fame center, won a title 2 years ago in Toronto. He comes in now in the middle, and this is a Laker team that around the edges has gotten even better. Rob Pelinka's had a very good offseason here after the Lakers finally won that title with LeBron James and Anthony Davis.
All right, so we don't know where they're going to play. Let's say they do play in the Staples Center, and the other team that occupies the Staples Center this season, of course, being the LA Clippers. And it almost feels like some kind of arms race, like, you know, whatever you do, I can do better. So the Clippers have added Serge Ibaka. He reunites with Kawhi Leonard. I mean, what does that mean for the rivalry going forward?
Yeah, the Clippers have catching up to do, and it always seems like the Clippers and Lakers are competing very often for the same players, but the Clippers wanted to keep some of their key guys. Marcus Morris, they signed to a 4-year, $64 million deal. Markeith's brother, bringing him back was important, and the Serge Ibaka commitment was huge for the Clippers. It gives them a veteran front court player, can play both spots, and they still have more work to do. Luke Kennard comes in from Detroit, who can play both guard spots, give them some good minutes there. And, they still have a few more roster spots. Reggie Jackson, who they signed last year, he's a possibility. He might be able to return to that Clipper bench. But, with Ty Lue, this is a different team now, and this is a different head coach and a little different way of looking at things. But the Clippers know they've got a gap to close with the Lakers.
Really quickly, do you have a sense of how involved Ty Lue is with these personnel decisions, how front and center he is with what's happening there? Yeah,
it's a pretty collaborative place there. Lawrence Frank, Mike Winger, their front office, they spend a lot of time talking with Ty Lue about how pieces fit and how they want to play. And I know that's a conversation they have every day.
It's just so fascinating to have these two teams in the same building. Clippers still trying to battle for the soul of LA, and the schedule comes out December 1st, so we'll see when they play head-to-head.
All right. Thanks, Hannah.
Thanks for all your hard work, Woj. We appreciate it. Up $195 million. Wrap your brain around that one. He's coming off a postseason where he averaged over 36 per. Jason Tatum, also 5-year max with Boston, also worth up to $195 million. First-time All-Star in 2020, and the Lakers agreed to a deal with Marc Gasol, the defending champs, really reworking that front court. They also traded JaVale McGee to the Cavs to clear up some space for the Gasol signing. Nice and busy times right here in the middle of football season for NBA insider Brian Windhorst. So can we start with Giannis, our two-time reigning NBA MVP, because he enters the final season of his contract, as we all know, but he could sign the Supermax, 5 years, $228 million, to remain with the Bucks. What sort of ripple effect could that have, Windy, on the rest of the league going forward?
Well, Hannah, it's really everything. To be honest with you, we just had the craziest week of NBA transactions in league history, but nothing is more important than waiting on this Giannis extension. If he extends, the Bucks are the gigantic winners of this offseason. If he does not extend, we're going to see a mad rush and dash to prepare for his possible free agency next summer. And if you look at moves that teams have made across the league, whether it's the Miami Heat signing 4 players to 1-year contracts, whether it's the Toronto Raptors tailoring the contracts of their players so that they have more room next year, or the Dallas Mavericks making trades to clear off guaranteed money, those teams believe there's a chance that Giannis may not sign it. And so the whole league, one way or another, is sitting on the edge of their seats waiting for that decision.
Okay, so let's really play this thing forward now. Let's talk about Anthony Davis, because the whole world expects him to return to the Lakers. So how potentially could what Giannis is doing or ends up doing impact the type of contract that AD ends up getting?
Yeah, it's unusual for AD to delay his re-signing for this long. And one of the things he could be watching is what Giannis does. If Giannis elects to sign the extension, then we could see AD potentially sign for longer. But if Giannis sets himself up to be a free agent next year, I know it seems hard for them to believe that the Lakers could do it, but that might spur Anthony Davis to only sign a 1-year contract with a player option, which is the kind of deal that LeBron James is on, to leave flexibility in Lakers payroll. So there's a lot of people watching Giannis Antetokounmpo right now.
I know that as you were busy getting all this information, you probably had one eye on the football screen, as we all did yesterday, and stood up when we heard Derek Carr's audible in the Chiefs-Raiders game last night. Let's take a listen.
Max deal. The reigning 2-time MVP would have until December 21st to agree to it or become an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. Another big man, Anthony Davis, probably isn't going anywhere, but he's also not in a rush to re-up with the champion Lakers. AD plans to wait through at least Thanksgiving before agreeing to a new contract. And Goran Dragic announcing on Twitter in the last 30 minutes that he's staying in Miami. According to Bobby Marks, It's a 2-year deal for the 34-year-old to stay with the Heat. He averaged 19 points during the Heat playoff run to the NBA Finals. See?
As Woj reported on Tuesday and Wednesday, this happened. Gordon Hayward has opted out of his $34.2 million option, and he is now the biggest name to hit the free agent market. No longer now a Boston Celtic, and Gordon has a couple of options, 3 options. He can re-sign with the Celtics on a long-term deal, or he can sign with one of the 2 teams with significant cap space. That's the Knicks or the Hawks. The third option is he can agree to a sign and trade with a team that does not have enough cap space to sign him. We've heard a lot about the Indiana Pacers as a possibility, as Gordon Hayward is from that area. Let's bring in Tim Legler, Richard Jefferson for more on this one. Legs, let me start with you, because first and foremost, $34.2 million. Gordon Hayward says, no, I'm going to leave a team that's been one of the tops in the East for the last couple of years. You think this was the right decision by Gordon Hayward, given what he's been through, not healthy the last couple of years in particular?
Well, let's see what he's got in mind, Sage, because I know I physically can't even make my mouth formulate the words, I don't want $34 million. I can't physically do that. So he must have something in mind that he wants. That's a head scratcher for me. I assumed he would take that $34 million. He's on a team that potentially can get to the finals or win a championship. He might not like his role as much as fourth fiddle in Boston, but he's still got $34 million coming and then hit free agency next summer. There's clearly something there that he doesn't like about that situation, and he thinks maybe he's got more to offer and it may be a more pronounced role with a different team. So I think sign and trade sounds like it may be the route that this is going. Indiana's coming up a lot in this, and the rumors about what Boston's going to get back include Miles Turner, which I think will be a tremendous pickup for the Celtics. And I think you've got enough offense there in Boston that you could actually value the shot blocking and rim protection of Miles Turner more than, the 14, 15 points you could get out of Gordon Hayward. So I'm shocked he turned down the $34 million, but he clearly has something else that he is looking for at this stage of his career, having just turned 30 years old. Let's see